in an article in August last year called Gen Cost and the Renewables Info Wars, you wrote, and I quote, "Energy policy is one of the great dilemmas facing Australian politics, and the Cold War between renewables and voters is escalating rapidly," end quote. Now, you go on to say later on, "Facts and logic are existential threats that must be obliterated, else the age of renewables will be regulated to a footnote in history," end quote. Now, early in the show, I was talking about science becoming a sort of religion, or at the very least, a tool of the political regime to exert fear and control. As an electrical engineer, how do you see the public's response to net zero propaganda and apocalyptic rhetoric? Are you dismayed to see people adopting bad systems as a sort of saviour complex and throwing money at corporations to alleviate their sin of breathing out carbon dioxide?
Yeah, somewhat. It is disappointing and frustrating, but I do feel a little bit of sympathy for the people, the layperson who don't have the kind of insights that someone like myself does have based on some training and experience that I have in my job. What does disappoint me a bit more, I think, is that the bureaucracies I see as almost enablers. So the politicians are. I can forgive them for making bad decisions, but I can't forgive the bureaucracies who employ experts, people who know the ins and outs of the market, far more than I do. There's people at all these energy bureaucracies, and we're talking about AEMO, the operator, AEMC, the market commissioner, and the AER, the regulator. And as well, there was an energy security board and all the rest of it. And then you've got all the state advisors who feed energy into the ministers. And Mr. Bowen's got access to every CEO in the country. He's got access to every lobby group and organisation. He can get the facts. So I'd suggest that if it's going this badly, then either he's ignoring good advice or he's getting bad advice. And I don't see how either of those can help the cause. I don't think it's working very well.
Well, we keep hearing things like trust the science, trust the science, trust the science. Now, I'm sure these are the mutterings of Labor ministers as they watch their flock of net zero sheep start to panic. Now, Climate Change and Energy Minister Chris Bowen, by the way, two portfolios that absolutely should not be joined together because they're in competition with each other. He has a lot of problems right now. It turns out that people really don't like wind farms and solar farms on their doorstep, and they're not too keen on having their properties sliced in half by these power lines either. Now, Europe, which is arguably 15 years ahead of us, in adopting renewable energy, they've made a pretty big shift toward nuclear energy instead. Now, suddenly, nuclear is the virtuous saviour of the climate. How is Chris Bowen going to square this? Because Australian green groups are not like their European counterparts. They're still singing the same slogans as the 1970s.
Yeah, it's an interesting contradiction, isn't it? The like you said, the almost unscientific belief that we need to reduce emissions at any cost, and then we have nuclear banned. So I'd suggest to people who are talking about nuclear, and this the same argument is raised every single day in all the social media and all the rest of it, and everyone knows it, but we just get told that nuclear is a joke by our energy minister, who is meant to be able to access the best information we can get. So now Mr. Bowen has been spruiking the benefits of wind and solar, batteries and transmission lines, as you know, all these things that take over the environment. They spread like a cancer, to be honest. Along with every other state minister, there's plenty of big business lobby groups and activists involved. So it's difficult to see how such a large variety of people can ignore the evidence, the facts that we live through every day, where we're getting our electricity prices going up. Ever since the government started forcing renewables into the system, the costs have been going up and following it. And you mentioned Europe. I would point out that Germany appears to be deindustrializing. There doesn't seem to be any turnaround at the moment. They need a political change. You look at California, you look at anywhere they've got it, where we're losing and we're costing our economy dearly.